this week. And on our Segment 5 Health Report, we'll take you to Mercy Hospital's Burn Center to see how they're helping Central Iowans.
And as Dennis said, we'll have an update on the death of an infant in Lamoni, and we'll take you to the Forum of Mayoral Candidates in Des Moines tonight.
Don will be watching the weather for us.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the weather planner. Fair skies, 32 by 10 o'clock. Increasing clouds overnight, 26. Looks like a little bit of cloudiness, maybe a sprinkle tomorrow, highs in the 40s.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for joining us.
That's our report. We'll be back tonight at 10.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We're going to begin tonight with the results of an ABC News investigation. There has been a lot of suspicion since the Iran affair began that members of the National Security Council, specifically Colonel Oliver North, were somehow linked to private fundraising efforts for the Contras in Central America. The President's own commission investigating the NSC has just asked for another week to finish its report because it has new information. ABC News has some of that information tonight. There is a connection between Colonel Oliver North and a Washington fundraiser named Carl Spitz Channel. Here's ABC's Karen Burns.
No. Carl Channel has raised millions of dollars for conservative causes, using his access to the White House and the National Security Council. But ABC News has learned that former National Security Council member Oliver North may have been using Channel as well to raise money for weapons for the Contras, an action prohibited by law. The project was called the Toys Project, and Oliver North was codenamed Green. Jane McLaughlin was disturbed by the Channel organization's practices and left last month. She was a fundraiser.
We'd send them a mailgram inviting them to this military briefing with a high-level national security official. And it would be on Central America, and that a very special project would be discussed.
That national security official was Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. North frequently spoke to small groups of Channel's most ardent contributors. He showed them maps and slides and discussed the Contras' needs, leaving some donors with the clear impression that what the Contras needed were weapons and ammunition. It would be a violation of neutrality laws for a military officer to use intermediaries or to directly solicit funds for the purchase of weapons. Jane McLaughlin was present at North's briefings.
My understanding of the Toys Project was that we were working directly on behalf of the President and his policy in Central America via Colonel Oliver North. And the Toys Project referred to military assistance to the freedom fighters, and that private citizens were funding this project.
And you were asked to raise money for them for military assistance to the freedom fighters.
I was asked to raise money for the Toys Project. They never said specifically this is military assistance, but it was always inferred.
Contributors who seemed particularly interested in the military needs of the Contras received personal attention. Colonel North wrote this contributor a letter and met with him privately. Afterwards, the man sent a check for $100,000 and a note saying, "Please have Ollie contact me to let me know what he is going to do with it." The check was deposited in the account marked Toys. The organization's records show that $2.2 million went for the Toys Project in 1986.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to someday see in Nicaragua the restoration of the democratic dream?
Donors say they gave money to this particular group because they believed the group was approved by the White House and would help the Contras directly.
Well, the President has personally encouraged me tremendously. I have met with him 3 times in the past 3 or 4 weeks, I guess, on this issue.
Channel's relationship with the President and his access to the White House was something he told his fundraisers to use.
For instance, I would make a fundraising call, and this is what I was told to do.
I called because I wanted to invite you to a meeting with the President at the White House that's going to be held the end of the month.
And that was usually to get you through to Mr. Jones.
How large a meeting will this be? I don't mean that to be...
Well, President Reagan wants to keep this to about 20, 25 people, a select group who are very serious about getting this program off the ground.
About 25 people came to the White House for that meeting. They met with President Reagan, Chief of Staff Donald Regan, and Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. To help the Contra cause, each guest was asked by Channel to contribute a minimum of $30,000.
Is it anybody's job to protect freedom, to keep this country from being a slave state? I think it's everybody's job.
For those who gave more, like Ellen Garwood, a wealthy widow, Channel arranged a private meeting with President Reagan. Garwood gave Channel's group a total of $2.5 million. Nearly $2 million went to toys. Not all donors knew their money had been designated for toys. In fact, many don't know how it was spent. But it appears that some of it went here. Nearly $5 million went to International Business Communications, or IBC. IBC is a public relations firm which had security clearance and a secret contract with the State Department for coordination of Latin American public diplomacy efforts.
I was told that all of the money that we raised for the Toys Project went through IBC so that it would not show on our records.
So where do you think it went from IBC?
I was led to believe that it was going directly to the freedom fighters.
ABC News has learned that the FBI is reviewing some of the organization's financial records, probing for a possible connection to diverted Iranian arms money, charges Channel has denied. Our review shows that between March and May of 1986, the records reflect a dramatic increase in funds, and most of that money was deposited in the account which was allegedly used for military aid, the account referred to as toys. Both Colonel North and Carl Channel have declined to comment, and while President Reagan was present at some of their functions, there is no evidence that he knew of any illegal activity. Karen Burns, ABC News, New York.
And there were other groups involved with the National Security Council in the effort to aid the Contras. As ABC's Bob Zelnick reports, the particular time in question involves a period when direct or indirect aid was forbidden or restricted by the Congress.
Sources familiar with the Tower Commission inquiry into NSC affairs say the commission has evidence that Oliver North's private Contra funding network raised approximately $15 million during 1985 when Congress banned all such aid and 1986 when it was limited to humanitarian assistance. Most of the money purchased light weapons for the Contras. Sources say virtually none of it went for such humanitarian assistance as food and supplies. Together with additional millions raised from allies abroad, the money was used to keep the Contra revolt alive until congressional funding was restored, an effort that continues to draw congressional fire.
When the administration decided to substitute a covert action policy for a foreign policy, the NSC more and more became the one to carry out that covert action policy. And some, and apparently Colonel North would fall in that category, seem to care less what the laws might be.
Sources say North reported on his activities to John Poindexter, his superior at the NSC, and also worked closely with former CIA Director William Casey. Sources say the CIA was involved with distributing the weapons to Contra fighters. Questioned by the commission, President Reagan is said to have denied knowledge of any wrongdoing. One source familiar with the evidence says that if any criminal activity was committed at the Reagan NSC, it more likely involved funds for the Contras than arms to Iran. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, Washington.
Amid the continuing questions about who knew what and when, Vice President George Bush today tried to put some distance between himself and the Iran controversy. For the first time, Mr. Bush was outspokenly critical of the way the national security handled the affair. Here's ABC's Carol Simpson.
For the first time, Vice President Bush said, like Secretaries Schultz and Weinberger, he did have some problems with the policy of selling arms to Iran. And he said he made that known in White House circles.
I think the key players around there know that I express certain reservations on certain aspects.
What aspects, Bush didn't say. But he did say he was especially troubled that the public thinks the administration sold arms to win the release of hostages. He indicated that even he's not sure that didn't happen.
And if the conclusion is that the United States swapped arms for hostages, well, I would be the first to say that is wrong.
Bush conceded the scandal has done him political damage.
I think that hurts someone like me who is closely identified with the administration. But if I'm going to take the credit for the good things, then I got to be man enough to take the associational guilt.
It's perhaps worth noting that the vice president chose to put some distance between himself and the Iranian arms scandal during a two-day political trip to Michigan and Illinois, two key states he must win if he hopes to be the next president. Carol Simpson, ABC News, Springfield, Illinois.
Later in this broadcast, the 82nd Airborne drops in on Honduras. The United States in a position to retaliate if a hostage is killed in the Middle East. And the President signs on to the concept of catastrophic health insurance.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Yugo.
The 87 Yugos are here, and people love them.
I think it's fun to drive. I like the rack and pinion steering.
We wanted a dependable second car. It's easy to love America's most affordable new car, the $39.90 Yugo GB. And now there's even more value during Yugo's Pack for Action sale. You can get sport wheel covers, a right side mirror, roof rack.
Great!
And a 3-year, 50,000-mile extended service plan.
Wow!
All at terrific savings.
I'll take it.
Hurry, this offer won't last long. See your participating Yugo dealer today.
Is this what a weekend is really for? Marriott presents the $59 two for breakfast weekend, where you can be alone together, lounge by the pool in sweet oblivion, dance the night away, one glorious night or a whole weekend for just $59 per night, not per person. A hearty breakfast for two is even included in the price. Marriott's two for breakfast weekend, $59 through March 28th. Call 1-800-USA-WKND.
Well, in Washington, this was not a very encouraging day for the Contras fighting in Nicaragua. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral William Crowe, warned that unless the Contras show some kind of success in their fight against the Nicaraguan government, the U.S. will back out from under its commitment. The White House said the U.S. commitment is fixed and steadfast. In Central America itself, right across the Nicaraguan border in Honduras, the United States has begun another joint military exercise with the Hondurans. As ABC's Rick Inderfirth reports, it is a chance for the administration to make a point.
The exercise began in the early morning hours at Polk Air Force Base in North Carolina. 750 members of the Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division loaded aboard C-141 aircraft for a 2-week readiness alert exercise. Destination, Honduras. During the 4-hour flight, the paratroopers checked their gear and prepared for their first jump ever in the Central American country. Shortly after sunrise, the cargo plane's doors opened and they were off. One soldier every second. The first 300 paratroopers hit the La Paz landing zone right on the money, but the second 2 plane loads arrived an hour later, and high winds prevented another drop being made. Even a few who jumped first didn't escape some minor injuries. U.S. military exercises like today's have become a common occurrence here in Honduras, with 7 major exercises conducted last year, running from January through December. But military officials insist they are not designed to be sending a signal to the Nicaraguans, Honduras' neighbor just 75 miles away.
In the 82nd Airborne Division, we don't send signals. That's echelons above us. We're concerned with just being combat ready all the time.
Still, the commanding general of the 82nd Airborne conceded just before his troops took off, "I'll leave that signal sending up to the folks in Washington to sort out." Rick Inderfirth reporting from Palmarola Air Base in Honduras.
Elsewhere in the world today, there is no particular news about the fate of the hostages in the Middle East. There is a continuing U.S. military presence in the Mediterranean. We have no idea, at least looking at it on the surface, what the administration intends it to be doing. But as ABC's John McCarthy reports from Washington tonight, the administration does want people to believe there could be action if the hostages in Lebanon are harmed.
Nearly all the pieces have now been laid into place to strike and strike quickly should any American hostage be killed in Lebanon. U.S. sources tell ABC News that the military, intelligence, and public relations groundwork has all been prepared. Military. 2 aircraft carriers, the Kennedy and Nimitz, continue to maneuver off the coast of Lebanon. Though the Kennedy is scheduled to return home in early March, another carrier, the Kitty Hawk, now in the Indian Ocean, will be brought through the Suez Canal before then to make sure there are always at least 2 carriers at ready, with a combined strike force of some 170 aircraft. More important, Pentagon sources say the Joint Chiefs of Staff have pulled together what one source describes as the most complete list of targets in Lebanon ever compiled by the U.S. Intelligence. From the terrorists who survived the Rome and Vienna airport attacks in 1985, the Karachi hijacking in 1986, and half a dozen other news sources, the intelligence community has gained a wealth of new information about the mafia-style families of Lebanon who are believed to be holding American hostages and promoting terrorism outside of Lebanon. Said one source, "We now know who they are, where they live, who they associate with, and where they go when the heat is on. A year ago, the U.S. knew almost none of this. Public relations. Secretary Schultz laid into place an important part of the U.S. public rationalization last weekend when he argued that the people of Lebanon are responsible for what happens there, even though the country is in a state of anarchy.
The people of Beirut have a responsibility for their own community, and they're not exercising it.
So the way has now been cleared for retaliation if one or more U.S. hostages are killed. Sources say if that happens, the administration is willing to risk the lives of the other hostages, arguing that they would already be at extreme risk once executions had begun. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
When we come back, the president, he backs a plan for catastrophic health insurance.
A lot of people have asked me why flowers from FTD are the perfect Valentine's gift.
Hi!
Happy Valentine's Day. Does that answer your question? I'm sure you'll agree. The FTD Sweetheart Bouquet is the perfect Valentine's gift.
We owe it to you. So we invite GM and Ford to follow Chrysler. You know, for 5 years, I've been feeling like the guy who sent invitations to a party and nobody came. Well, somebody finally showed up. GM and Ford decided the time has come to improve their warranties. Chrysler says, welcome to the party. It's good for America. Maybe that's why we haven't heard from the Japanese. Millions of Americans are only getting 2 or 3 year protection. What are they, second-class citizens? We've backed 5 million Chrysler owners with 550 protection. Our quality had to improve, and dramatically. So, the party's over. Chrysler announces the end of 550 and the beginning of 770, the best powertrain protection in the business. 7 years or 70,000 miles on the powertrain, 100,000 miles against outer body rust through on every Chrysler, Dodge, and Plymouth we build, car, truck, and minivan. Like I said, if you're looking for who builds them best, take a good look at who backs them best.
You'll go wild over Riunite Royal Raspberry. The taste of raspberries and natural Riunite, not a watered-down cooler. And try natural peach.
And now the president's plan on catastrophic illness. Under the current law, there's actually no ceiling or no cap on what people can be charged to take care of someone who is stricken with an extended and expensive, as you can imagine, illness. One incident can be devastating for many American families. For some time now, 2 different plans for dealing with the problem have been weighed by the administration. And today, as Sam Donaldson reports, the president has made a choice.
President Reagan gave his nod today to a catastrophic health insurance plan for the elderly over 65 under Medicare, which he said would take care of the essential need.
Senior citizens will now be safe from the worst fear of old age, having their life savings taken away to pay the costs for an acute care due to a catastrophic illness.
Under the new proposal, elderly Americans over 65 could pay $4.92 a month more if they want to limit their out-of-pocket doctor and hospital expenses in case of catastrophic illness to $2,000 a year. This approach represents a defeat for Attorney General Edwin Meese and other administration conservatives who favored a private health insurance approach, and a victory for Dr. Otis Bowen, Mr. Reagan's Secretary of Health and Human Services, who came up with the Medicare expansion plan. Capitol Hill liberals said it was a step in the right direction, but didn't go far enough.
It doesn't take care of nursing home costs. It doesn't take care of prescription drug expenses. And for the non-elderly, catastrophic coverage is still non-existent.
The president in his press conference said, this is a giant step forward. This is not the step of a giant, it's a step of a pygmy.
Pygmy or not, this plan is more than the administration has ever proposed before. It won't cost the Treasury any money. It would cover 30 million Americans. And the betting is that before the year is out, Congress will approve it. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, the White House.
In tonight's Other Money Matters, or today's Money Matters, more accusations of insider trading on Wall Street. People who work for well-respected firms have been named. 2 executives of Kidder Peabody and a partner of Goldman Sachs are accused of exchanging inside information about stocks to make millions of dollars in illegal profits. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials lost about 6 points, and the trading was very heavy. When we come back, the new Soviet openness runs into some old-fashioned security agents.
I practically live out of a suitcase. So I always call 800-221-2222 and make the quality choice for great lodging anywhere. Oh, Quality Inns always gives me a big, comfortable room. The service is impeccable at Clarion Hotels. And Comfort Inn saved me lots of dollars. Franks. Wherever you go, just call 800-221-2222 and you're all set. Unless your luggage gets lost. This isn't Pittsburgh, is it?
The legendary Mercedes-Benz SL Coupe Roadster. To every reason you ever had for wanting to drive it, you can now add one more. A mighty 5.6-liter light alloy V8 engine. 227 horsepower. Infinite driving excitement. The Mercedes-Benz 560 SL.
Dad's around, Mommy. Daddy's coughing like crazy.
Oh, you sound awful.
Give him my cough medicine.
Daddy needs something stronger than that.
When a strong cough comes on, adults need a strong medicine to help turn it off. Vicks Formula 44, the only liquid cough medicines with the maximum strength cough suppressant adults need in every formula for the relief adults want.
Let's go, Dad.
Formula 44, strong medicine to help turn a strong cough off. From Vicks, of course.
Look to Northwest. We're working hard to give you all our best. Look to us, Northwest.
Northwest presents mini prices to many places. Mini prices to many places. Many more places than any other airline.
The Secretary of the Navy has decided to weigh anchor, you might put it. The Pentagon announced today that John Lehman has decided to return to private life later this year. Lehman has been the architect of the administration's plan to build the Navy up to 600 ships before the end of the decade. Well, anyone who spent time in the Soviet Union knows that most Soviets, not to mention the KGB, do not like public demonstrations, particularly when they are designed to impress foreign reporters. Many people in the West have been impressed in the last few weeks with Mr. Gorbachev's attempts at what he calls democratization. But the confrontations on the streets of Moscow this week between the KGB and Jewish demonstrators trying to win freedom for an imprisoned activist have been, to say the least, bad for Mr. Gorbachev's image. Here's ABC's Walter Rogers.
Snowplows were called in to disrupt the demonstration and take aim on Western television cameras. When a Jewish demonstrator tried to raise a placard, Soviet plainclothes agents again moved in, punching and kicking. This is Boris Begun being led away for protesting his father's imprisonment. Soviet authorities did their best to make sure American television cameras did not report the incident, especially with a big Moscow peace forum approaching this weekend. This plainclothes agent grabbed the ABC camera cables, and for the second day in a row, they were cut with diagonal wire cutters. Some reporters found today's incident a clear contradiction of Mr. Gorbachev's policy of openness.
I myself was kicked, punched in the back, in the kidneys, and pushed around.
I am sure that this wasn't done by representatives of the state authorities.
In recent weeks, the Soviets have released large numbers of dissidents and political prisoners from jails and labor camps. But this new democratization here apparently does not translate into greater freedom for Soviet Jews wanting to demonstrate or emigrate. Walter Rogers, ABC News, Moscow.
One of the notes from overseas, it has been another traumatic day for Palestinian refugees at 3 Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. Once again, a United Nations convoy carrying desperately needed food and medical supplies has been kept out of the camps by Shiite militiamen. The residents of the camp, who say they have been forced to eat cats and dogs to survive, have been caught in a power struggle between the Shiite and Palestinian organizations. We'll be back in just a moment.
Inspection! Are we clean?
Yes, sir!
How do we stay looking clean?
With automatic vanish, sir!
Why automatic vanish?
Sir, with automatic vanish, every flush brings us more of that tough vanish cleaning and deodorizing formula. No other brand can give you that.
Sound off!
Automatic!
Sound off!
Vanish! No other brand gives you that tough vanish
formula! In private, there are other Vanish products you should know about. When you want a brush, use liquid or crystal Vanish. Their powerful formula cleans so well, you'll stand up to any inspection.
Yes, sir!
Jeep Cherokee has just been reborn. It can now be ordered with a 4-liter, 6-cylinder, 173 horsepower engine. Nothing in Cherokee's class even comes close. In fact, with this engine and a choice of 2 or 4 doors and 2 shift-on-the-fly 4-wheel drive systems, you could say nothing's in Cherokee's class.
You've probably heard about pain relievers that sound new, but they're not new to hospitals. For years, hospitals have known about ibuprofen, aspirin, and Tylenol products. And today, their overwhelming choice, Tylenol. In fact, last year, they dispensed Tylenol 10 times more than the leading aspirin and ibuprofen brands combined. If hospitals use Tylenol most, shouldn't your choice be Tylenol too? Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Tonight, Our World 1949. TV commercials open a new world to consumers. And on 2020, when you sleep with someone, you're sleeping with everyone they've slept with. As AIDS spreads, safe sex could save your life. Our World and 2020 tonight.
Finally, this evening, we are not happy with having to report that Jules Bergman, our science editor, has died. He was only 57, and he was a part of this news division almost from the beginning.
2, 1, 0. Ignition. T plus 17 minutes into this Gemini 4 launch. We should be getting ready.
Jules was the pioneer in space and science reporting on television. He was the one who more than 25 years ago infused all the rest of us with excitement about the space program.
This is Freedom 7. The fuel is go. Now we know that Russia need not and will not have any monopoly on manned space flight. The day will be remembered as the beginning. The day the United States first tasted space.
He covered every manned space flight in the U.S. program.
Apollo is ready to begin tackling the moon. Borman, Lovell, and Anders, and all of us on Earth via their live TV, will see both the Earth and the moon as no men have ever seen them before. We're approaching the 20th anniversary of both the first U.S. and Soviet manned space flights. But the shuttle is as different from those early flights as a 747 from the first Wright brothers planes.
He was everything but an astronaut himself, one of the only reporters to go through virtually all the training. But he wasn't just a cheerleader. When NASA made a mistake, Jules was the first to notice.
Enough how budget cutting has actually driven the cost of the shuttle up and helped delay its first flight 3 years.
He was widely respected for his honesty as well as his knowledge.
Jules was most respected for what he knew about aviation and aerospace. He never missed a beat. If there was ever a time that I needed to know what was going on, Jules was always my man.
While he loved everything there was to love about flight and could fly anything, his work in other areas was often of landmark quality. A decade ago, his program warning about the dangers of asbestos raised the alarm for much of the country.
This building...
We journalists are a sentimental lot, and we'll all be telling Bergman stories over our drinks tonight. But for now, we wanted to share that much with you. The business lost a pro. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
These people have something in common. All were ABC News Person of the Week. Friday we'll choose again, and who it is may surprise you. Watch World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
1997.
Gotta do something.
A world they didn't create.
I need to make love.
Starting Sunday, this is America.
Come in and enjoy steak and all the shrimp you can eat for just $5.99.
Country Kitchen.
Only qualified professionals fit you at the Wiley Opticians, where we guarantee fit and style to your satisfaction. The Wiley Opticians, now with 3 locations to serve you better.
Is your table a junk food junkyard?